Yeah, all right. Great to see you all here. The purpose of the meeting is a retrospective on community governance calls. I haven't really studied the responses in detail. I just scanned them, so I will just put it on screen, and then we can go through it question by question together, and we can read what other people have been answering, and we can add to that our own thoughts, and maybe bring it to some conclusion. In the meantime, just before I press the record button, there was a great story from Felix. I'm going to repeat it, Felix, unless you want to do it. So the guys there asked GPT whether it would integrate with the platform and have create a deep funding proposal for itself. So they asked it to write a summary and milestones, etc. And it worked out so well that we might be able to welcome GPT on our platform in not too long time. So I'm looking forward to that proposal. I hope there will be a lot more to come, because, totally forgot, when we are recording this today is also a big milestone for ourselves, all of us here, because this is the starting date of the second round of deep funding. And I hope that by the time you see this, which is hopefully also very quickly, the first proposals might already start to land on our platform. But it's open for 4 weeks, more than 4 weeks, so you have plenty of time, whether you want to work in during the holidays or around it, both would be possible. So I hope you can find the time, and of course I hope that everybody who wants to submit doesn't wait until the last moment, because as sooner you do submit, the more valuable feedback you can get, and the better you can make your proposal. All right, that was a spontaneous introduction on deep funding round 2. Purpose of today, or the agenda, the main point on the agenda is retrospective on these meetings. So yeah, please be candid, be open, be critical if you need to, constructive if possible. I think if deep funding is about one thing, it's about experimenting and learning. And the same goes for these meetings. To be honest, in SingularityNET, we have actually very ambitious goals concerning community governance, DAOs, and all that stuff, of which we hope to tell you more also in the beginning of next year. So deep funding right now is a very cool but also very important testing ground for that. So all the more reason to look seriously at this retrospective. Let me see if I can draw up the results. One moment, organize my sheet a little bit. So we did a short survey to give everybody the opportunity to give their feedback. Also, if you're not able to attend to this meeting due to timing, for instance, or other reasons, or if you are not, we're not able to attend to this particular meeting. Yeah, I think I can disclose this. So some people added their name, but we won't draw on that too much. It's most important to see the answers. The reason that I asked for an optional name is that it might give some more opportunities to accommodate people in specific wishes they should have. Right. So we have at this moment 5 responses, and most people have attended one or more meetings, and I think one person was mostly here watching videos, and both are interesting perspectives. So let's just go through it question by question unless you have another idea. What is your perceived purpose of the meetings? Does this align with your expectations and desired purpose? I'll first read aloud through the answers here, and then if you're all done eating, then maybe we can discuss it a little bit if so needed. So, perceived purpose. Figure out how to do decentralized innovation fund. Yep, pretty well aligned. To discuss community input on the deep funding design rules and share insights. Check. Setting up the right foundations that would make deep funding sustainable and successful. Reflecting on previous rounds and discussing improvements. Collaborating on vision and enhancements for the tools and platforms used. Growing the community. Yes, the meeting align and actually exceed my expectation and desired purpose. Wow. I'm really reading this for the first time right now, so that's really good to hear. The deep funding governance meeting was one of masterpiece. The roadmaps were discussed in an in-depth level and in my understanding. Okay, that's really nice. I perceive you are accompanying the projects and also giving them a shout out. I align completely with this initiative. All right, so this is all quite positive. That was actually not something I completely expected. I also expected a little bit of pushback. So we're doing these meetings, but do we get enough say in the meetings, or is there enough output clear from the meetings? So what is your ideas on that here? Anybody would like to comment on that?
I can. My answer is the second on the list, so that's no. Yeah, all across the board, very positive reactions. Clearly, yeah.
You know, one thing that I thought might be improved at some point, at least, is that in a lot of these meetings, it's 80% me talking, and in an ideal world, and that doesn't have to be next week or the week after or whatever, but at some point would be great if these meetings would also go perfectly well without me being there, and maybe with just community members being there. So that is actually my only observation. Of course, I love to hear myself talking, so no complaints here, but just kidding. I do think, so my perspective on this is that I think that this does also have something to do with the phase that we're in. We're now laying the fundaments and making big changes, and if you compare round 2 to round 1, it's already quite different. And it's possible that round 3 and 4, or whatever, however we will organize it, will also be quite different. And I take the room right now that I get to try and steer that in the right direction. But I very much appreciate your feedback, and that feedback also had impact and made changes. But I do expect as we go along and the format will become a bit more stabilized, and at that moment there might also be more opportunities for you to take the steering wheel and to create a proposal. Of course, we also have the governance rounds, which also is a perfect way to contribute with proposals, but those are real proposals, and these governance meetings are also on all kinds of smaller details, right? So these are my thoughts on the topic. Anyone else would like to chime in here? Or should I assume that everything has been said?
No, I think one thing that quite helps, or at least it's related, as you mentioned, to the current phase of deep funding itself. I was just imagining like a situation where you wouldn't be hosting, and what would happen. And I would imagine that, for example, on Discord, we would have like some process for collecting agenda items. I never, makes me also wonder about the ambassador program, and I never call out so much like, if you have something you want to be discussed during the meeting, please put it on Discord. It's more like an assumption that people will do that. However, that doesn't really happen, not by itself, at least. So maybe that's something we can, somewhat facilitate, or
we can reinstate. We did that for, I think, 4 or 5 times or something. We had a number of topics, and we had a process on Discord for voting. I looked at it not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I did notice that all of these topics have been covered there. But I think it's perfectly fine to reinstate it at some point. I think at some moment there were always specific topics that had a very good reason why we need to, for instance, starting that governance round and the rules about it, and then talking about which proposals were best suited to have an actual vote on. Those were all needed topics in these meetings. So that didn't leave a lot of time for a free format, so to speak. But yeah, I think maybe the next time would be a good one to collect again new ideas for topics that way.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right, anyone else? I did see you on unmute for a moment, Nadim. But don't.
No, I think no. I just overall, I mean, it seems pretty positive, and that's a good sign. I think we'll probably get more insights from the following questions, because here it's just, I mean, quite high level, and overall looks very positive, which is encouraging.
Nice. That's because you're all such nice people, right? Let's go to the next one.
That was actually very true.
Yeah, I mean it. We do have nice and constructive discussions here, and yeah, I do value that. So yeah, thank you. Next question. What do you like about the meetings? What is going well? Consistent progress, the topics covered, the transparency and openness. Oh, I really appreciate that. The meetings are very open and engaging, great discussions and held, and all perspectives are appreciated and built upon. Wow, cool. What I like about the meeting was the fact that all documents were made available for the attendees to make reference and to read further on the next steps of the funding rounds. Yeah. The short and long-term plans for deep funding make sense a lot, and the expectations from project owners make more accountable. All right, I'm not sure if I completely get the last part, but I'll take it. And finally, it's great to see the community is involved. That is true. And I think we also owe a big thank you to the Catalyst crowd here. So thank you. We couldn't do it without you, probably. So this is the easy part, what is going well. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll just go to the next one. Anyone want to comment on or elaborate on this? I don't want to fish too much about things that are going well. Fishing for compliments, we call that, but I'm not sure if that's an English phrase actually, but it works in the Netherlands.
You know, one thing I would say about what works well is actually something that initially I thought was not working well. The fact that initially when I first came in, I thought maybe decisions were already made from the top, and you know, it's more of a centralized thing. And I initially thought that might not be the best approach, but actually after practice, I'm finding that actually does have its merits, because at the end of the day, there's someone that is taking the lead and accountable, and you get the advice and the feedback from everyone. So that's actually something from my end that's been a progression as I join these meetings and see the progress. It's actually sometimes a good thing, because that's really a weakness in Catalyst, where we think everything is so decentralized that you need everyone's, you know, okay and agreement, and we many times get stuck in a loop and keep running around, and you know, there's no real means of agreeing and proceeding. Whereas here, everything goes quite smooth and fast because there's that structure. So that's actually something, you know, of a progression of my thoughts after joining these meetings.
That is a very, very important insight, really very important. That was actually what I was also referring to when I made my comment on the first question. And I mentioned that it has something to do with the phase that we're in. There are so much things that need to be arranged and changed and set up, etc. But I'm glad that you think that way, and I tend to agree. But I also don't, I think this is not the end station. I think we need to continue to build on democratic processes and making sure that everybody's voice is heard where they want, etc. So I think personally, for now, this is perhaps the best way to make progress, as you're saying. It's also very important insight in the context of further decentralization of SingularityNET as a foundation, because there we will have the same things. And the last thing that we want is to give ownership to the community and then find out that the community is not able to make a decision on things or driving things forward or whatever. So there may not always be an easy solution there, but I think our ongoing and true purpose is to make decentralization work. And that might mean in the beginning, and so that might mean that we will not plunge in completely and then say one token, one vote, here are the keys and make the best of it. But also try to guide it and to develop it and to educate it from this very early stage to maturity. And I think we need to go through a number of steps, but I would like to state here that we're absolutely 100% certain and determined to make decentralization work in a proper way. And as much as I appreciate your feedback, we are also determined to make it better than it is today.
I think actually it's quite needed at the beginning stages of the project. And I mean, in retrospect, now this is actually one of the challenges that we're facing on the Catalyst side. And that's one of the strong points here. And I definitely agree, that's not scalable. You know, once the community really grows, we need to think of how we democratize and decentralize things. And having the foundations now in place is the top priority. So it's actually a best practice that many communities should glean from this when starting as they transition and evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, well, comparing to Catalyst, in a sense, we have a luxury position because Catalyst is already so big and so complex that it becomes hard to change. And it's also always been at the back of my mind that we should keep this program agile and organizing it in a way that it stays agile. And to give a very concrete example there, what I've resisted a little bit until now, I'm not sure that will continue for always, but for now, is create all kinds of layers of decision making in the program. While that might be attractive for some things, it's easy to have or attractive for some decisions to throw a group of people together and then have them think about topics. My goal until now has been to try and do that by tooling, and our reputation experiment is, I think, a very good example of that. So by enabling people to collect reputation points, we're giving them the opportunity. We have an organic way of organizing people without establishing all kinds of fixed layers and gained rights and roles, etc. in the organization. And the ambition there is also to keep it alive and to keep it fresh and to give both new people that come into the system and have a lot of good ideas, opportunities to grow, and also at the same time acknowledge the experience from people that have been here for a long time. And I think the configurability of a reputation system is something that might help in this sense. But also there a lot of ground we still need to cover, but yeah, I think the governance round was quite successful in that way, and really looking forward to round 2 for real, in a sense, how it will work out there. And I hope when we're at round 4 or 5 that it will have matured to an extent that we can really rely on on the reputation of people and give them appropriate weight based on their reputation ratings. Maybe I'm babbling along a little bit too much here. Let's get back to the survey. All right, thank you for that input, Nadine. Now, the more interesting part maybe, what could be improved? Better formatted questions for the whole audience. Yeah, the question. So, yeah. I need to let that sink in. Let's first get to the other answers. Attendance and engagement numbers. Quite happy with the current numbers, but always aim higher. Solid rewards are already in place as well. Agree. Having more people join. Maybe time slot and duration of meetings. Website description about the meetings. Yeah. That's a very good one. Better formatted questions for the whole audience. I think that somehow ties into what Peter said before, that it might help to go out and have a system where we could ask for topics to address in these meetings. I still expect in the future there will be some meetings that will more or less be predetermined because there's some important topic, or maybe it will be both. So we have done that in the past as well, that there was one topic which was predetermined and some other topics addressed by the community. So that is a way. I'm guessing that what is meant here also is maybe like a survey that is put out to the community for all kinds of things. So there's more like a direct interaction. And I'm not 100% sure there. Of course, we have the governance round for larger topics. We don't want to start voting on every minor thing. That would get very quickly to voting fatigue. I can imagine at some point it would be interesting to have more like questions in these settings where we say, okay, we have this issue and we have 3 options here. Which one do you like best? I sense that maybe that is what is being meant here.
But potentially another way as well is maybe based on the burning question of the day or that week, we can have like a theme for that, for each session, with maybe 1 or 2 questions for everyone to come prepared to say, these are the things that we're mainly going to discuss. We can go off topic, obviously, based on how the conversation goes, but there's a predefined theme that everyone goes into knowing that this is what we're going to talk about and this is how they can contribute.
Yeah. Yeah. Question is, who will define those themes and those questions?
Good question. Maybe it would come from you, at least in the beginning, because you are the, like maybe you and Peter, because you guys are the most aware of what are the current challenges that you're facing today and what are the burning questions that we should be discussing.
Yeah.
I know that's not scalable for the long term. But again, going back to the previous point where it's okay if it's centralized for now. And that's one of the examples where if we were to vote every meeting, what should we discuss? That's defying our strong point.
Yeah.
But an approach I love a lot is at very first maybe defining a roadmap. Let's say 2023. Where do we want to head to with Deep Fund? Try to identify the major envisioned outcomes and then reverse engineer the whole thing. Identify, okay, which topics with chronology do we have to set up, for example, in order to solve topic B, we first have to solve topic A. And based on them, setting up the calls then and structuring them into really working sessions where we have the possibility to get nice insights and feedback on most crucial and important questions to accomplish the roadmap step by step.
I like the idea of trying to make it more like a workshop sometimes. So we have a goal, we have a long-term goal, and then we have tactics, and then how can we address that? So that might be an interesting approach. What I want to be a little bit cautious about is that with a small group that we happen to be in a certain meeting, we make very fundamental decisions. So those things I would rather than give to the community to vote about. So there's a balance there. Of course, all of you here have received quite a high reputation by being already active on the portal. So if you put something out to a vote, your vote will be weighed quite heavily. So that's one thing. Another thought that crosses my mind, Felix, when you say this is, I think it's a good idea, but we also have to be flexible and be reactive and watching out for new opportunities. So for instance, the existing services is not something that that maybe I wouldn't have thought about at the beginning of the year or whatever, but it might turn out to be something really important. But a very interesting topic for a workshop together in a meeting like this could be, let's brainstorm on how we can make such a pool work and how we can attract people and how we can make the community enthusiastic about this. So we'll have to see whether it will be a success in itself, but either way, that could be an interesting topic. And that would be something that we could, and that would be an obvious goal for 23, to make sure that we don't only have interesting teams and projects, but also actual services getting on the platform or being used. Joanna, welcome. Good to have you here. I'm glad that you still have found some time after Catalyst to join us here.
How are you? Oh, I wasn't in Catalyst. I was I got invited to talk on this DAO call thing, but it ended quite early, so I'm happy to be here.
Okay, my mistake. But good to see you anyway.
You as well.
Just a last note to what you said, Jan. The idea what I said was not to make decisions in this course, more like how we did before with the governance thing, right? With the governance experiment. To have a small group which is able to have a focused discussion and to generate high quality outcomes. But decisions shouldn't be done from a single small group, right? Then send it out to the community, present it, and ask them, hey, what do you think? It's up for the vote now. And making a little bit the both, on the one side, what are the strongest advantages of voting? For sure, you can reach a massive audience. If you would get the whole audience in a call and expect a high quality outcome with some 100 people sitting in the call, well, doesn't work out so well, right? Really trying to figure out the advantages of both and combine them then.
Yeah.
But
I think this requires a little bit of experimentation too, right? See how we can best get value out of the meetings and what kind of topics are best suited to discuss. And then how we can best present them to the community and have a community vote on it. And so maybe we can merge it somehow, these things, with community governance rounds, and that we have some proposals offered by the community, and then we can also have 1 or 2 questions coming out of sessions like these that we want to propose to the community. All right. So for the next meeting, I think I'll probably ask everyone to come up with topics for the next meeting, and see if that can be a first step, and then readdress that. But we did that before, right? So and maybe we'll have a few topics from ourselves as well. I might have an interesting one already, but I won't tell you now. All right.
Just a small thing connected to the time slot and duration. I do feel there's multiple opportunities recently to indicate if you want a different time slot. At the same time, right now it's happening at the same time as the Catalyst town hall, which, by definition, it is not optimal. There's overlap between the audiences. So, I do think that's something to, at least in the new year, let's say, make sure. I don't know. There's so many evenings in the week. I'm pretty sure we can find one which doesn't overlap with an exact match topic-wise.
I'm not sure how many free spots you have in the week, Peter.
Yeah.
But it's also not a given that it has to be in the evening. There's even an opportunity to have it on alternating time slots to accommodate people in other time zones in the world. That would also be interesting. The tricky thing is here that if we would like to get a good answer to this question, we would need to ask also the people who are not frequenting this session yet. So let's think about that. But I think it would always be healthy to have more people joining these kind of sessions. And I think with more people, also the dynamics will change, and then probably you will see less of me talking and more other people having interesting ideas. All right. And I parked this one because we have a question coming up about the time slot. So I thought we will address it later.
Sure. Yeah, sure thing.
Are there things we are not doing at all, but that you would like to see happening? So do you have any new great ideas? Workshops where we ideate on the spot. Yeah. Yeah. Would be interesting. Like I said, I would love to have a workshop on trying to engage. Well, I can think of a number of things already. So how do we get an onboarding training off the ground, and who would be interested in helping support services to onboard would be one. And somewhat related to that is, how do we get existing services on our platform, and I think these could be topics that we could brainstorm about together. But maybe you have much better ideas than those, and maybe I'll have other ideas as well next time. So yeah, start thinking about it, and I'll create a Google Doc or something where everybody can put their ideas. Doesn't always have to be too complex.
Yeah, cool.
Things not really. No, sorry, you were saying something, Peter?
No, I fully agree with that. I think
right.
there's endless list of workshops that potentially could be relevant. So yeah.
Yeah. And then we can really use TiVo skills in damn it, what's the application called with the notes, yellow notes?
MyRobot.
Using it.
The MyRobot. MyRobot.
MyRobot, of course. I've used it so often myself, and I just had too many meetings today. I think that's it. MyRobot, yeah, of course. Alrighty. Not really, no, quite satisfied, and the room for input allows for any suggestions to be considered already. Well, appreciative of that. Not applicable, okay. Hint SingularityNET services with a deep funding label to show a difference. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. There will be, right now there are not that many out there. Like, we still have to see the first one. I know that there are a few approaching that status, right, Kenrick? And a few others as well, I think. So we'll be seeing them. And yeah, I think that's a good idea to somehow tag them that way. Yeah. Anyone, any other things shouting out here you would like to see that we didn't think about, a completely different format or idea or whatever? So workshop is noted with immediate brainstorming or something, but what else?
One thing what I think helps a lot in this calls, it helps individuals to build experience and expertise within SingularityNET and DeepFund. Definitely. Simply being there, having conversations about, helps me a lot when other people come to me and say, Felix, what is DeepFund? What is SingularityNET about? I feel much more confident by being in these calls and getting first-hand information, and then handle it over to and share it with other people. Yeah. This is a massive value, I would say.
Good point, and that brings me to next week, which might not be, we come to the rhythm afterwards, but based on your suggestion, Felix, we will have, I think it will just be a Zoom meeting like this one next week, where we'll invite everybody who has questions on deep funding, and we'll see who will join up and do it organically and have a meeting like this one. Maybe I have a very short presentation, but I think most information is out there already, so I don't want to be repeating that in half an hour or something. And then make that session open for any questions, not like a regular AMA, but more like an open house, so to speak, a town hall. So that will hopefully also bring some people in that will also feel then a little bit more connected to deep funding, and might also feel more comfortable in either joining or telling other people about it. So thank you.
Just as you mention it, we have the Swarm event team. We asked them already, hey guys, could we be ready to run a first Deep Fund Town Hall somehow next week? Because we really would love to invite people also from the Catalyst community, heavily shift focus there, starting to onboard and introduce them. Definitely with the goal as well to get them onboarded as proposers and as active participants on the platform. And we would have quite some resources there from our side where we can help a lot in setting up the event and all.
I would applaud to that. I would love it. And then if you would like to have me there, I'd be happy to be there for answering all kinds of questions. And if you want, I can do a short presentation or whatever.
Hell yeah! I mean, no Deep Fund Town Hall version 1 without Jan. I mean, no. Definitely.
Well, I think right now, Mihai is doing a very good job in presenting deep funding around to Catalyst. So maybe he can take my job sometime. But no, I would love to answer any questions that will pop up. With due modesty, I do think I might be the person who has most in-depth knowledge about all the finer print and rules and regulations and the reasoning behind them. So yeah, happy to share that with anybody. But then I would suggest, Peter, that if we do that in the context of Swarm, then we will invite our community there as well, and then there's no need to do 2 sessions, right?
Yeah, I agree. I guess I think Felix mentioned already before about some Singularity Swarm. I'm not sure how public. I think it was public, right?
Yeah, it's coming. Okay. It's coming alive now. it's coming alive. We just kicked off the Twitter account today and made some announcements already. Shared it with our community, introducing Deep Fund Round 2 and all the stuff there and how it correlates to Catalyst and the Catalyst Swarm. But yeah, the main goal is really having the SingularityNET Swarm. And we kickstart the whole thing, but then folks like Eric S. Grandano, who is here, who is really engaged as well, as the ambassador program on all the stuff. And where we see already, oh, cool, there are people who start to take responsibility and leadership to really make sure then they're taking the stage.
Yeah, I really deeply appreciate it. I think that is so wonderful, and we're very grateful for you, Felix, and others to be organizing all that. We owe you big time there. Thank you. So yeah, let's agree rather quickly, maybe on a slot next week and the context for organizing it, and then we can start publishing about that, notifying people about it.
I think the slot next week might actually be just fine because there's no Catalyst Town Hall.
Yeah, it was the last one today. Yeah.
Yes.
You have holiday.
So we can simply steal them the show. No.
No, but I mean, it works, right? 17 on Wednesday, 17 UTC. I mean,
sounds good.
I mean, this is touching on the next question we're discussing, I guess. But yeah,
this is just for the next time, for this Swarm and this presentation or QA on deep funding too. But
yeah, then just let's pinpoint it then. 17 and for an hour and a half as well, or would that be different?
I have no idea what to expect, how many people there will be and how many questions will be asked. I think 1.5 is a good target time. If it would end up being 2 hours, that would also be okay. But and I don't think it should be more than that. But maybe if after 1 hour everybody is completely clear about everything.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
But 1.5 could be a good target. Okay.
Yeah. Well, since we're on scheduling anyway, then do we also have this call actually on the 28th of December? Because I do think that being in between Christmas and New Year's, that one might be not optimal.
Yeah.
That's personal.
Let's go to the next two questions, Peter. So let's start with question 5. I think it's 5. I don't know. What interval makes the most sense for you having these community calls? So there is, well, I'm not sure about the statistical significance of these numbers, like 5 contributors, but there is a majority for bi-weekly. Lately, we have been doing it on a weekly basis, not every week, but more often and often, and there was always a reason to do it on a weekly basis. Yeah, personally, I also think bi-weekly is fine. Bi-weekly is fine, but what are your ideas about this? Joanna, good to see you on camera as well. Nice pink sweater. Any ideas here from this group on intervals, frequency?
Bi-weekly seems nice, but maybe also related to the stage in which we are.
Yeah.
When we say, for example, in the proposal stage, there might be more questions and community may have a lot of engagement where they would love to have a place. Then it calms down. Maybe then in the voting, less is needed, and after, even less is needed. So maybe during the proposal submission is open, maybe having it more frequent. Because there we can definitely expect that more people chime in. They watch the recording then even from the town and say, oh, this sounds amazing. I want to join. When is the next one? Can I join next week?
Yeah.
For example.
Especially also about the community governance rounds in between. That would also call maybe for a few extra meetings to discuss the proposals that come in, etc.
So on that point, does it make sense to keep it weekly and cancel it, or schedule it bi-weekly and then schedule a new one if needed?
I would say schedule it bi-weekly and plan extras when needed.
Yeah.
Because canceling it doesn't feel good, right? On the other hand, that does make sure that everybody has that placeholder in their agenda, so that makes things a little bit easier from a practical point of view. But
that's also what Kenrick is noting in chat. Like bi-weekly can be appropriate for some groups, but you do lose consistency. It depends on the goals.
Well, bi-weekly is very consistent, I would say. But if you go from bi-weekly to weekly to bi-weekly, that might be a little bit confusing at some point, because at some point people don't know anymore whether there's a meeting or not. But here, I think the website can also play a bigger role than currently. And I saw somewhere a question or feedback on that, and I think that's an interesting point as well. So I would go right now for bi-weekly, but make sure that if we plan meetings in between the bi-weekly, we try to do that well in advance. And I think over the past months, it was all quite experimental. Also, the community governance round was not something that we planned long ahead. We just went about and did it. Hopefully, as we go along, well, although I like that experimenting nature, but there will also be a little bit more rhythm and predictability. And so I think any schedule is okay as long as it's clearly communicated, basically. I can also imagine that we somehow plan more in advance some topics per meeting. What will be done, what will be discussed, etc. Actually, I think that could be a good topic for our first workshop. To think about a schedule and to think about teams and to see if we can make a kind of calendar for the next 3 to 6 months or something. Because that will allow people, if they see a topic that they're passionate about, to come and join that specific session.
Is this about the governance calls or the town halls?
I was thinking right now about the governance calls, but to be very honest with you, I'm not sure if I can differentiate them really well at this point in time. So maybe we have to have had a few town halls as well to get a better idea of what belongs in which meeting and how we can use both most effectively.
Maybe to give a short differentiation, town halls, how we set them up, are usually there's a first introduction in the main room. It's a Zoom call like this one. And for example, in the Catalyst town hall, right now the breakout rooms opening up. And the breakout rooms are hosted as such that there's an open sign-up form, a simple Google form, where anybody who has a project, a topic, an idea he wants to discuss with the community can sign up a breakout room. Then he gets a sign up, he gets a breakout room. The breakout rooms are introduced before we open them, and the community in the main room can decide in which of the conversations which are proposed they want to chime in.
Yeah.
I really like the concept, but at the same time, let's say that would happen right now. Like we would split into 4 conversations, out of 2 would be 1 person only. Like
No. That's the difference with the governance call here and the town halls, right? The town halls, they're mostly broadly communicated, announced to the community, where you have a lot of entities. Because we saw in the beginning that when here right now we are 4, 5, 6, 7 people, right? So there's no need for breakout rooms. In some months from now or some years from now, when we have really strong and vibrant community and you have 100, 150 people in the call, now it becomes difficult to discuss stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And therefore then the breakout rooms that you are sure that, but even sometimes we end up with breakout rooms with 30 people in the room and other ones with 25 because we have 150 people across 5 breakout rooms, for example, or whatnot.
So I think a town hall would be a very good thing to have in between, after the end of a deep funding round and before the start of a governance round, because that will give a lot of input. You give people a stage where they can give feedback on what has happened, and you get a lot of hustle and bustle and bring a lot of new ideas that can then be addressed properly, structured in a governance round. And that points me to the idea also, again, at the stage where we are today. Maybe that will be different a year from now. I can imagine that these governance calls, as we're doing them right now, could be going on a bi-weekly schedule, but I can imagine that the town hall, we will make a town hall like a bigger event, but then do it less often, and then try to get as many people as possible to these town halls. Does that align with your ideas, Felix?
Mostly, my ideas mostly come from what happened in the past. And so through almost 2 years now, we had this weekly town halls. And what happened there is you don't really need each time strong agendas and main topics and all the stuff. And we started with, how many people have there been when we started? Oh my God, 20 people, something like this, right? It constantly grew and grew. And the most important value generated there is that people start to meet each other, start to learn about each other, and start to work with each other. And whole projects and companies emerged out of these meetings.
Wow.
Because you have this frequency where people actually, if not, they would just engage in Discord, a Telegram or whatnot, but they would not really get to know each other. And we really wanted to drive this massive collaboration to say, hey, we have a lot of amazing builders and minds here. What happens if they come regularly together? And the outcomes have been massive, actually. Friendships have been built, companies have been built, initiatives and whatnot. And this is why mostly the center of gravity, I like to call it, where people come together, exchange their ideas, visions, ambitions, problems, doubts on anything around the ecosystem. And to have this in a really all the time recurring thing allows a lot really to build culture within the ecosystem, because culture is this peer-to-peer interaction, right? And this culture is extremely important when you think about strong projects which are resilient and which know what they do. And finding collaborators where say, hey, look, we have this and this problem. Do you know how we can handle this? Then you have 20 people in your room who says, yeah, for sure, like this and that and that. And if you need my help, just ping me here. So
you're very convincing.
Oh, sorry.
You're very convincing. The only hesitance I have, but that's really the only hesitance, I think this is a great idea, and I would love to get that off the ground. Also, like I was referring to other before this, in the broader context of decentralizing SingularityNET or parts of SingularityNET. I think it's important. Culture is super important, absolutely. The only hesitance I have is, will we be able to collect that many people that are required to do this successfully? And of course, the Cardano community is much larger than SingularityNET at this place and time. But yeah, I think it's a great initiative. And I think, yeah, there's no reason for me to try and steer any of that. I think it would be wonderful if this is really a community-driven initiative and collective and collaboration. As a side note, what I personally hope, we have bi-weekly team meetings with Kenrick and other teams from Deep Funding, and I also very much enjoy these meetings because you have a similar thing that you are saying, that people are reacting to each other and seeing each other's stuff, and there's always positivity and always people are being constructive, and all the time we're only with, well, we have now about 9 teams. And not all of them are there. Sometimes there are 2 or 3, but still there are interesting discussions. So what I hope, looking forward to 2023, is that we will also be able to expand that, going from one round to another, and that group of teams and makers from that perspective will also grow bigger and more dynamic and more helping each other, etc. That's something I would really love to see. But then what you're doing is doing the same, but then from a community angle. Of course, teams are also community members in a sense, but it's still a different kind of dynamic. And then, yeah, we'll have to find out how these 2 groups can then fuel each other with ideas and help and initiatives, etc. So those are all big ideas for 2023, I think, and beyond. But I love it, Felix. Not sure how I can best contribute to that idea of the town halls, but let's be in touch and let's continue to discuss it. All right. So yeah, I think we do need a workshop to think about rhythm and different kind of meetings and topics and agendas. I think that would be a very good one. Time slots, yeah, 5, 6. That is about the same time as we are right now. One says 9 till 22 is very flexible person. I forgot who it was, but UTC office hours, yeah, but evenings likely have better attendance, which is most important to me. Yeah. So I don't see here a lot of reason to change it other than being overlapping with Catalyst, but we could do it, of course, on another day. But I think that calls for, yeah, I was saying this calls for a survey, but it is a survey. Yeah, maybe we should also think about that in the workshop on the agendas and topics, etc. Also think about proper timing. And see if I can, in the meantime, can collect some more feedback on that. All right, going on, let's continue. So now the community, so these were questions about this session. We also took the opportunity to ask some feedback on the community governance round. 60%, so 3 people did attend and 2 didn't, so interesting. What did you like about the process, that it was there in the first place? Thank you. The platform Sway, the available information and guidance, being able to edit proposals and incorporate feedback, how much time there was to write and review proposals, okay. The chance to present proposals and answer questions. Yeah, so positive signals on Sway. I'm very happy to hear that. There are still some things that I think can be improved. Everything can be improved. But we have found a very good baseline with that. So I'm very, very happy and glad that is appreciated. Yeah, also the time for the proposals. Okay, I think that's generally good. Anyone here would like to shout out what you liked about? Maybe the next question is again more interesting to focus on.
I submitted the form. I like that it was there in the first place.
Yeah. And you like that your proposal was so widely.
It was surprisingly well received, I have to say. Yeah, I was not expecting the felt like just only positive responses. Yeah, that was cool.
That was a clear-cut approval from the community. What could be improved? Engagement numbers, the rewards put in place already attempt this, so we'll have to see their effect next round. Very good point. Being able to vote on the same platform. Yeah. That will be some time, I think. That is quite a major thing, and there's also a downside there. We have a decentralized space where we need tooling. And that tooling consists of ideation, of voting, of discussions maybe, of things like Trello boards, like D-Work. All these things contribute, dashboards maybe, I don't know. All these things contribute to decentralized governance. And of course, the most convenient thing is to have everything in one place, in one tool. But that is a little bit orthogonal to the idea of being decentralized. Suppose that everything would be in Sway, then we would be completely dependent on Sway and their next step at some point. So, and apart from that, there are also tools out there that I think Sway is actually connecting to Snapshot. We looked at Snapshot as a tool. We like them, and I would like to be able to use them in the future. But right now there are a few things that were blocking us from that. For instance, we are doing grade voting right now, which is an experiment in itself. Also things like liquidity pools and all that stuff made a little bit complex. Let alone multi-chain might also not be the easiest thing to do on a tool like Snapshot. But in my ideal vision, what would happen is that we would create some kind of ecosystem, and I would love to work on that with folks from Catalyst actually, and maybe create some proposals for that, where we have an ecosystem of building blocks that can be put together and that will work very well together, like a kind of best of breed system maybe, where you can take out one block and put another one in without the whole system collapsing. I have some thoughts about that, but that's not the easiest thing. That won't be done tomorrow. But I would love to see an initiative doing that stuff for real, and then collaborating with a number of solutions that are already out there on the market, and creating a system maybe not unlike our decentralized AI platform, where you have modules that can work together and based on which you can build a front end, and that will allow you to use and reuse functionality out there. So that's a little bit far away vision. On the short term, the good thing is that we most likely will have voting with Cardano on our platform. So our voting platform will be multi-chain. I'm always cautious when promising something. So that will also mean that if you have on Sway, either you have a Web3 wallet, which is Ethereum right now. They don't support Cardano yet with their Web3. But if you have a wallet mentioned or defined for payouts of rewards, that would also be connected, could also be connected with our voting platform. So that would give a lot more opportunity to get reputation points and to use that reputation for a higher voting rate. So we're thinking and working on integration. Integration is not necessarily the easiest thing. So I think we'll have to live with different systems for a while. But what we can do is try to make those separate systems better integrated over time. Anything else somebody would like to add here? What could be improved on the community governance route? So we're thinking about improvements on the system that is proposing improvements.
Maybe proper documentation. Proper documentation. Yes, exactly. So that in later stages, we are always able to refer back to proper data set. In the best case, on-chain as off-chain. Because this is one reason also, for example, why we distributed Symbol tokens for the attendance of this call, right? That we are already able to say, okay, community members, we are able to recognize your contribution via on-chain validation of the contribution. But then also make it really easy for people, because this is what we see in Catalyst, for example, this is horrible. No documentation leads to a lot of friction, a lot of discoordination, and nobody understands actually what has been decided 4 months ago, 6 months ago. Why is the decision you make now so important? Because this mostly relies on the past. And if there isn't a proper documentation, the whole governance thing just breaks apart as more as it evolves actually. And proper documentation is really a whole own task where you need really strong people actually to run this.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also like consolidating these documents. I'm sure, because there are a lot of information out there. Like, I have to give praise for how much documents there are written on processes and stuff. But I think I know that they exist because I'm in the Discord. So I'm wondering if, like Felix was saying, a couple of months from now, someone wants to go back and revisit why a decision was made, or maybe I don't know where you can find those. So if there's like a little portal, like Notion maybe, or something where people can it just be like a live repository of these documents.
Yeah, good point. So one thing I take from this is we have to avoid that the same proposal is being done over and over again and then getting the same responses, because that's a waste of everybody's time. Unless things have changed to an extent that it makes sense to ask the same thing again and maybe get different answers. So that is one thing. I think yeah.
Sorry. I was maybe more referring to the documents that are created, like the learnings of round one, or like all those documents that come up after. Those are the documents I was referring to, rather than the proposals in the funds.
Yeah. Yeah, that would start by creating meeting minutes from sessions like these, right?
There we start actually, and I think you really can start to look on proper use of already existing AI tools, for example, and really implement them to the SingularityNET platform. Like what we start to do a lot with some other projects is, for example, Otter AI. Meet1, she did some of them here already. And then you take all the notes from Otter AI, and you copy paste it into ChatGPT. And then you write me a summary out of this notes, and writes your summary. Then you say, awesome, now define action items out of the notes. Then it defines your fucking action items. Then you say, awesome, now transform this into an essay. And it gives you out a really nice text, and you are there 5 minutes just copy pasting stuff what the machine actually does for you, and it's even for free. And you start to have some really awesome stuff with it. Oh, cool, that's nice. But yeah, proper tooling, right?
Yeah, so tooling is important, yeah. Also a dedicated person who will take care of this and make sure that this is always consistent. And to be honest, I know I won't have the time for that. The problem is that not everyone is the same people are always available in the same meetings, and yeah, we would need. So maybe tooling helps, but Joanna?
There's always like a deep funding Otter, that works. You just throw it in all the meetings and you capture all the meetings.
Yeah. Well, if that is that's of course no problem at all, indeed. Yeah. Where were you?
Like the documents that are sent in the community governance Discord channel, like the conditions and guidelines, or like the community governance topics and outcomes, like all of those, where can someone go to find them, and not just in the Discord channel?
I think most things I share end up on the website as either as a blog or right now in the rules and conditions, for instance, and then it is finalized. And for instance, the rules and conditions this round are different than the rules and conditions of the previous round. Yeah, maybe we could create an audit trail of that somehow, if that's beneficial. I do have it because we put it as an attachment to the contracts. And I also still have them in WordPress as unpublished items.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's very pressing. I think it's really still well organized, and like the community is small enough to like navigate and ask questions and stuff, but it could be something to consider in the near future. But I don't think it's pressing, because if there's everything that's already published on, like, I know I've seen articles everywhere, then they're easy to find. I don't think it's an issue.
I think our website needs to be improved, but that's another thing. What was I going to say? Oof. Yeah, this was the point I was going to make regarding doing things on chain. I'm a firm believer that if it's a mess off chain, then the mess will be even bigger on chain, because you can't organize it after you've put it there. So I would rather first see an organized system and process, and then start. And I'm totally in favor of making things on chain when there's a need for that. Also want to avoid that people would become more scared of saying things or doing things because it will be recorded for all eternity on chain. So that's another thing there. But I think there's merit in doing that, especially going forward when we want to mature as a governance entity. Yeah, it makes absolutely sense to store these things online. But my first goal would be to make the processes, to improve the processes. And yeah, I'm also in favor of making an effort to document better, as long as it doesn't take me a lot of extra time, because I simply don't have that opportunity. So if somebody is so Otter, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. If we are in favor, I can pay a license from the deep funding treasury, and then we could have it used here, no problem whatsoever. And then you can also use it, Peter, for ambassador program if you want.
Yeah,
Should
like a community,
Sorry?
like a community-facing account.
Yeah.
Because also for ambassador program, it would be great to have these calls transcripted. We're using Discord right now, so that's well, yeah, cool.
Maybe a good topic for a workshop. All this tooling and how we can do this. Actually, very interesting thing. Yeah. All right, it's getting time, so let's continue. But thanks for that, and we'll have Otter on your proposal, Felix. You see, real influence in the meeting. We make decisions like that. What is your preferred frequency of these governance rounds? After each funding round, once a year. Wow, that's a surprise. And the beginning of each quarter. Yeah. So I think each quarter and each funding round might somehow be similar, hopefully, at some point. A slight majority, there's no significance, right, in 5 people answering these questions, but after each funding round, I think we discussed that before also, after each funding round. I remember you saying, Felix, that you would like that. I suppose that's still the case. Any other have another view on this? Yeah. I think we'll start after each funding round. I think that makes sense. And then, yeah, we can revisit that and see how that thrives, if there are new proposals coming on, or if it bleeds out at some point, or becomes bigger and bigger, and then we have to do it more often. That's also an option. So it will be interesting to see how that will evolve. Any thoughts about rewards, both tokens and reputation? Feel free to share any and all feedback. Potentially tie this in with the ecosystem-wide governance engagement, e.g. have deep funding reputation count, even just a little bit, for SingularityNET governance events. 100% with you there. Fair and transparent distribution of rewards. Is that a desire, or is that a statement on the current, an observation? I don't know. It's great.
The transparent part for sure is related to current, so I think
I
we can assume
so, but maybe not everybody thinks the same. But it's great if deep funding rewards the coaches and the community managers. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have those layers right now. We have more like an organic way that people are doing stuff. But I think we need to continue to think about how everybody is properly rewarded for their efforts. And doesn't always have to be only in tokens or money or whatever. But I think this is a good start to award people for their contributions on the deep funding rounds. Yeah, maybe we can also somehow tie meetings like this to reputation. I think that would also make a lot of sense. But then the question would be how to facilitate that and how to make that practical and transparent and traceable, etc.
Well, there's an answer to that already. That last bit for meetings, at least.
Yeah, like it's done in Ambassador. Is that already done in Ambassador that you write?
Well, Felix is doing that with these Jimbo tokens.
Yeah.
So yeah. That makes it part of the Swarm Treasury on-chain data.
But then we also have to make sure. So I'm trying to get some people motivated to create a proposal for this deep funding round to create a reputation dashboard, so that I don't have to do it on Excel, continue to do it in spreadsheet, and to make it more reliable and predictable, and maybe also more transparent. And then the next step would be how can we add other sources to that? So one source could be the Gimbo tokens, presence rewards, for instance. And then, yeah.
We are on it already, because right now the whole treasury and accounting system, which we built, tracks engagement, participation via distribution of tokens on-chain and off-chain. And we build it as a DApp. And right now we are setting up the dashboard for it already, in order of being able to track which person received when, which amount of tokens for which tasks.
Mm-hmm.
We have this easily done.
Yeah.
But
So
yet,
then-
we do it voluntarily. We don't have any funds for it. But maybe this is
So-
something what we could address, because we have quite some structure in place already. But it doesn't, yeah, but like I said, we build it voluntarily. So the devs there, they are paid for other stuff, and they just spend the free time to level it up and bring it to the next level.
So then,
But yeah,
Jan,
but
that.
it's
Oh, sorry.
just last note, but it's meant to be a DApp, so everybody will be able to use it and run it on their own instance.
Yeah, I think that's stuff to think about, and we should. Yeah, I know I talked about it with Peter sometimes. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether we need another token, to be honest. That's I feel a little bit resistance myself to tokenize, and then I want it to be open for and usable for everybody, and for other projects having already a token attached to it might create a little bit of resistance, and also not sure 100% sure whether it's always needed, but yeah, let's so the thing is, what I do need right now still is a proper dashboard that does the calculations related to different rounds on reputation, because it was already quite sophisticated the first time. Actually, in deep funding, it will be less sophisticated in a sense, because we're not counting the submissions. But still, round by round, it will get more and more complex. And if we would create a liquidity there, so that you will get a higher reward for getting a positive comment from a high reputation person than from a low reputation person, then it will easily get infinitely complex and not doable anymore in a system like spreadsheet. So my statement would be, what I still set out to be is make a dashboard for these interactions on Sway, particularly right now. And then the next step would be, if we have a similar system that tracks behavior on meetings, for instance, then we would need to consume that as well. And then a third source could be history of a wallet. So is this a very new wallet or very old wallet, or is it going on and off, or has it a steady amount on it? We could tie some kind of reputation to that as well. And then we could put it all in a mixer. And for different purposes, we could use then different metrics. So that is a little bit my vision. And I think your Gimbo initiative ties in very well there. I'm not sure if it can replace that system.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think reading the document, Jan, and following what Felix said, I think what would eventually happen is that could be data that could be fed into the system and then added to the reputation score.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I understood as well.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So there's a lot of work there to be done as well. And I hope we can create a very nice proposal for that together. And then hope that the community will be appreciative of that as well. And then we can start building it together with Joanna. maybe.
Yeah, I did have some questions about that, but I didn't know if this was the right place to ask. But I'll send it in the group chat.
All right, cool. We have a chat on this, Felix, on Discord. I kept it closed for now, but you're, of course, you and anybody else who would like to is welcome to join those discussions.
Oh no, if Joanna is there, I don't need to be there. She is amazing.
You already have plenty of hats and things to do, I'm sure, but yeah, just say so. If you, I'm really open about it. So if you would like to join, then feel free. But otherwise, we'll get this out as a proposal some time, and then we'll be able to, you and everybody else will also be able to give feedback on it by that time, which by now has become kind of time pressing as well. So we need to get forward on that.
Yeah.
All right. We're already over time, as usual, as often, not always.
One last question. Do you think it could be possible to extend the proposal submission a little bit? Because many people will be in vacation, Christmas, New Year, and all the stuff. They will come back in the first, second week of December then. I was just wondering if this could be possible, or if you really have your fixed timeline set in stone already.
Well, we have communicated the dates, but I also mentioned to one person on Telegram today who had the same remark. I said, well, if this is a widely felt conviction, yeah, then I'm for sure open to extend it a little bit. The reason why we did it now is, first of all, because we could, and second, because I thought that and I still think that for some people, actually, the Christmas period is a very suitable time. If you have a day job and you have some holiday right now, that might give you the time that you otherwise don't have. If the proposal that you're submitting is part of your day job, then of course it's a different thing, and you might want to have some extra time. I think we should find out somehow. I think this would call for some, maybe not a vote, but some kind of poll to see if there's a widely felt idea that this should be extended, and then I don't have any problems with it, and then to extend it with, say, 2 weeks or so. But also don't want to jump to any conclusions right now. Let's think about a proper process to determine this. Peter, you are thinking. You have any thoughts on this topic? I see you thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. In a way, it's kind of predictable that the Christmas days and holidays in general being part of the round would lead to some disagreements, I guess. I think it's hard to assess. Like I saw you mentioning in previous discussions as well that the submissions really came at the very last moment of the period. Yeah. I don't know, it's a month from now. I kind of feel like that's enough time. At the same time, if it will stop others from joining and we need to wait, I don't know, 3 or 6 months for round 3 to start.
I hope not 6 months. I hope not.
Oh, I know.
Let's see what
join for this reason.
Let's first wait a week and see what happens. As mentioned last time, half of the proposals came in the last 3 days or so. I hope that's a little bit different this time, because also with the incentive mechanism, I hope that more people will be collaborating online, and that will in turn be an incentive to submit. Although we might be seeing those effects not until the next round. So let's think about it. And then I do feel also, because we have communicated it, that we need to have some kind of community feedback before we decide on this. And not sure if this would call for an official vote. I would like to minimize the number of times that we have to do an official vote, but if we could do some kind of poll somewhere and then determine maybe in advance that what a minimum amount of submissions would be for it to be, for us to validate it, something like that. I already see people gaming it, but
Well, if you have time enough to game it, you also have time enough to put the proposal in, so it should be fine.
yeah. Cool. All right, peeps. Thanks a lot. Any last questions or remarks?
You called us peeps? That's so cute.
I only call my best friends that. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for your feedback. And I suppose this means, well, the next one will not be in 2 weeks, because then it's the 28th. So it will probably sooner be 3 weeks or something. But then that will be the first week of January, so I'm not sure about that one either. What do you think? Should we do one the first week of January or not? Or should we wait another week?
I'm open.
Peter?
For ambassador program, we don't, like with the work groups. We do have the town hall. Yeah, that's not the most clear answer, I guess. Yes and no.
You know what? We'll try to organize something a little bit online. Instead of having a meeting, we can try to have some online chat. We don't do that much, right? And then think about a proper list of topics for the next rounds, and get some input. And see if we can get that discussion going on Discord or Telegram or whatever.
Yeah, Discord works nicely with voice channels integrated.
Well, the idea is to do it offline, so have a document and chat, like have a dialogue, because otherwise you have to be present again. Then we can just as well.
For sure.
But to have that discussion, not synced. How do you say?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous. At least if we're having this long time off, so to speak, we could use that time to collect ideas, suggestions, think about the format, that kind of thing. But maybe everybody will just be on holiday. We'll see.
Yep.
All right. Oh, I'm still sharing. I never noticed that because I make the other window bigger, but all right. All right, then that's the end, folks. Thanks a lot. Have a great holiday time. Have a great holiday season, and start working on those proposals.